wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good.
Well, that's a big change from where I used to film, isn't it? This is the living room in the beautiful little farmhouse in Prince Edward Island that Brianna and I get to live in. Obviously, at this point in our lives, not something we could afford to outright buy, but we get the privilege of living here. Beautiful place. Now, it's winter right now. It's pretty cold outside, and interestingly, not as bad out here as it is in, let's say, Toronto or Ontario in general. Weather's actually pretty nice. It's cold, but still pretty nice. Nice enough that I can actually go outside and pedal a bike around, which I haven't done for way too long. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and picked up a project. So this is a GT of some sort. I don't even actually remember the exact model, but I've seen so many of these at Cyclepath. It comes in that kind of bright shiny red. It's got the kind of, I don't know how to describe it, goth, death metal style sticker scheme on it, the tan tires, and it's a pretty basic BMX, but it's got some cool features. And the thing about BMX bikes is this frame, despite being labeled as a GT and having some distinct features, is really not too different from any other BMX frame out there. The previous owner was nice enough to mostly sand it down for me. There's a couple bits I wanted to a bit, but I want to paint this thing and rebuild it and make it something actually fun and hopefully be able to test ride it before the major snow hits, because it's the East Coast out here. I know there's going to be major snow. Here's a closer look at the frame I'm going to be working with. You can see it's in pretty good shape overall. The only thing is the brake mounts here. The actual brake posts back here are still original. I don't know what the story is with that. The guy I bought it from said when he bought it, the previous owner had cut off the guides and the cable stop, but left the brake mounts. I guess he found something else and welded those on. It looks like it's just a little tack weld. It's not going super deep into the frame, despite all that, heat and discoloration there. I think that is mostly paint damage, because I'm not seeing any, burnishing to the metal itself, so I think it's a reasonably well done job on that. And something else about these frames, they take a lot of forces, but not a ton right here specifically. If you think about it, if you're landing a jump and the forces are pushing that way on your fork, it's tension on this tube, which is your big issue. The top tube, if anything, if that's bending that way, your top tube's getting compressed. And steel is pretty strong when it comes to compression. It's this tube being bent beyond its tolerance and cracking around here that's generally the worry with hard riding on a BMX frame. But this down tube, perfectly smooth. We actually have a saying in the BMX world, which is, it's all fun and games till somebody dents a down tube. And that's because the down tube, like I said, it takes a lot of the load when you're riding. So if you have any problems with your structural integrity here, that's much more of a worry than, let's say, here or at the back, where people will often grind and dent the chainstays. So BMX bikes can take a lot of abuse, and this one, honestly, not as bad as some of the ones I've ridden in the past. So I think this is going to be a good project. Now, a job like this is actually pretty easy, especially because this bike was already disassembled and mostly sanded when I got it. So the hard work's already pretty much done. Sanding it, I definitely have to do a bit more work. Painting it, going to use a bit of primer, maybe 2 or 3 coats just to make sure it's ready to take the new paint. Then I've got a basic white and Rust-Oleum teal. So I'm going to see what I can do in terms of a color scheme with these. Probably just going to do like a 2-tone fade in the middle. I'll figure it out though. But masking tape. This is the most important thing. We got to basically clean out the inside of the frame wherever, bearings or moving things or things are installed on it so that the tape sticks. Put tape in so the paint doesn't get in there. And that way when we reassemble everything, it goes in cleanly. It's not going to be all lumpy and nasty and hard to work with. So taping is pretty important. especially on your brake mounts. You get paint on those, your brakes are not pivoting. You pull them, they're just going to stay closed. There we go. That is taped up where it needs to be taped. So we got our seat post, we got our bottom bracket, we got our brake mounts, and we got our headset. Those are the bits where we don't want paint. And then the bolts I have here and here, those are just sacrificial. Those are going to get paint on them, but I have the proper ones for this still in the actual workshop. Now, I'm going to go down into the basement, use this to try and like hang it from one of the little rafters in there, but there's pretty much no light in the basement, so unfortunately, I'm not going to be filming this bit. The next thing you're going to see is the aftershots of this. Well, it's about midnight, the harsh winter wind is blowing out there, and I'm out in the workshop. It occurs to me, this is probably the first time that I'm going to be showing this to really anyone on any kind of social media. So, surprise, this is my new workshop. It's obviously a bit of a downgrade from Cyclepath, and I mean, I'm not even fully set up yet. I don't even have a work stand for the bikes, hence the table. But, I mean, I can get a BMX bike built. These things are simple enough. I originally started filming like a step-by-step how-to on reassembling these things. Then it occurred to me, like, that's not really the point of this video, and that would make it take so long. If I talked through every little step, I could make an hour just in all the little details and exceptions to all the rules and everything on building a bike. But yeah, I was more talking about like a bike like this, something that is affordable to begin with. Like retail, these GTs are $400 or $500 Canadian, but used, you can get these for, like I did, about $100 and rebuild it into something awesome. And for that kind of price especially, I think this is really good bang for the buck and has a ton of value and a ton of potential. So let me talk you through a couple of cool features on it. So the bones of the bike are still what originally came with it. That is the original wheels and tires, which are not super high end, but solid enough. They work pretty well, and they are mass produced, but they're not, how do I put this, an open source item that any company can just have their label slapped on. These are specifically a GT product, these tires at least. As for pedals, these were a gift from Tristan back in Cyclepath. They're obviously not BMX specific pedals, but I think the oil slick looks cool on this setup with the teal, and especially with like the sticker I've got on there and the little patches of white. That really appeals to me. The saddle, I switched out the seat post for one that's, you know, a McNeil branded piece instead of just a generic looking piece, and that makes no functional difference, but McNeil's a Canadian company, so I think that's really cool. The seat, this is the We the People Smuggler saddle, and its main feature is back here. There's a little zipper and a compartment, and that is, you know, implied to be for stashing your herbal remedies, but realistically it's for a little Allen key set and maybe a $10 bill just for an emergency or something like that. So not much storage in there, but it is still really helpful to have, and I think that's a cool feature on this seat, especially because BMX seats can't mount a normal bag under there. Now as for the brakes, I obviously went for a linear cable, so it is capable of doing bar spins without getting tangled up. But other than that, they're just a basic brake set. And then one of the features I do really like about this, that I'm pretty sure is original, is the bar and stem combo. So it's a top load stem, which gives you a little bit more height than the more mid-school style bikes. And, you know, it's fairly comfortable. The bars, they're not super big, just like the mid-school bikes that this GT is aesthetically based on, especially with the 4-piece setup, but they're just a little bit bigger than the ones you saw back in the day, and they are pretty comfortable. Like, I was sitting on this bike, and it's pretty nice. Aesthetically, I'm sure the teal and tan doesn't appeal to everybody, but I really like it. It's kind of got like a summery, beachy, surfy look with a little bit of that like late 90s, early 2000s look to it. That really appeals to me, because that's kind of the bikes I started riding BMX on. So at this point, really the last thing to do with this would be take it down, give it an actual safety check, because it's all assembled, but you know, I wasn't paying a ton of attention, so I'm sure I missed a bolt here or there somewhere. I need to make sure everything's tight, and then once we get some warm weather, yeah, I gotta test ride this thing. Maybe not even warm weather, just maybe not super windy. The thing is, my space here, I've got a ton of grass space to play with, but the driveway is pretty small and pretty cracked up, so it's not really great for BMX. I'm probably going to have to make my way down to Summerside to be able to give this a proper test ride, and that will require better weather. One thing I am actually looking forward to at Summerside is the skate park at, what is it, Credit Union Place, I think it's called. But yeah, there's a really big outdoor skate park with some really cool looking features to it, and some of them are actually like scary enough that I'm like, I'm not sure I can ride those. So very excited to try that skate park one. And I think this bike, if I get a chance to bring it there, is going to be a ton of fun. Now, long term with this bike, I did put a decent amount of money into it. Not a ton, like it was $100 for the bike itself, and then I spent $80 on another bike that donated a few parts, but mostly that one's going to pay for itself as I use the parts on other repairs later. Realistically, I don't think I can make this just a straight up donation bike either way. I may, if I find someone who's really excited about it, just donate it, but most likely I'm going to try and sell this thing. And I'll be honest, this paint job, I rushed it a little bit. Like, it looks nice and smooth, but it's pretty thin. I didn't have a ton of this white paint left, and I put the stickers on before the paint was actually cured, so I guarantee you peel any of these stickers away, a bunch of paint's coming with it. So I know I'm going to have to repaint this thing properly before I sell it. But for now, and for something to play with, that's awesome. And if you were to do this yourself, $100, you can get a really fun toy. And even if you're not into BMX bikes, you can pretty much do this with any genre of bikes other than, high-end road and mountain bikes where you get stuff like carbon fiber and hydraulics. Those stay at the high price points. But anything that's an attainable style of bicycle, yeah, you can get something for $100, sometimes even less, and with just a little bit of effort and manual labor, looking up how to do things on YouTube, you can make a really fun toy.
In a hard place, do I work hard or live at my pace? You're only young once.